Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about some productivity tips while using VS Code. So I like to be quick in my IDE, and I feel like a lot of this stuff might be things that some people don't know about, so I wanted to share it. So the first thing you'll see is I went to File Preferences Settings, and in the settings there's this option for files called Autosave. The default here is off, but I always change it to on focus change because I want my changes to be saved automatically. So I'll demonstrate very quickly. You type some text here, you click away from the screen, and now it is automatically saved. Keeps you from losing work, which is definitely important for any developer. The second setting I want to talk about is this editor render white space setting. The default here is none, but I like having this set to all because I like to know where all the white space is and get rid of like stuff that's not necessary. So if you see here, all these little dots before each line indicate how many spaces are there. So you got 2 spaces everywhere. This blank line has 2 spaces, which is not necessary. So I like to be able to see that so I can remove it. Along the same lines, you've got a blank space at the end of a line. I see this all the time in real projects. And I just like to get rid of that because it's definitely not necessary. And then you'll also see instead of dots, we've got little arrows here, which indicates that there's some tab characters. So we don't want tabs in our project, so I'm going to get rid of those. So it's just something to help you keep cleaner code and more consistent code and not have random spaces and things that you don't need in your code in the way. The last setting I'll talk about before we'll also talk about some shortcuts is the editor setting for multi-cursor modifier. Mine is set to the Alt key, which I believe is the default. And this just allows you to create multiple cursors. So if I click at the beginning of a line, you see that's where the cursor goes. If I click the next line, it moves to the next line. But if you hold the Alt key down and click another line, now you've duplicated your cursor. You now have 2 of them. Now I can have 3 of them. And if I needed to add like a comma to the end of a lot of lines, I can do that all at once. And it's also got like the ability to do copying and pasting through multiple lines. So if I needed to like add a comment to the end of each line, I can copy and paste, and you see each line gets the correct element on the comment. So these multi-line features can be very helpful with increasing your productivity. There's some more. There's add cursor above, add cursor below, add cursors to line ends, and add selection to next find match. So you see these are Control Alt up and down, Shift Alt I, and Control D. I'm going to show you what each of these do, like what the difference is between them. So we'll go back to the same file, and if I want to duplicate my cursor to the next line down, I can do Control Alt down. And I can do it again, and now I have 3 of them. So just like we got before, we have 3 cursors. And you can go in the opposite direction, Control Alt up, Control Alt up. Now I have the 3 cursors in that way. If I want to just take a selection, like make a selection like this, and move the cursor to the end of each line, I can do the Alt Shift I. So I now have a cursor at the end of each line. And you can like select all of the lines in a file and do that. And now I have a cursor at the end of each line. The last one was Control D. I'll show you that one in a different file. So we have this variable here called post, and then we have post title, and we have post body. If I want to change this, I've got to go to each line and make the change, which can be time consuming, especially if you've got this referenced a lot. So what you can do is make your selection of the word you want to change, hit Control D, now this word is selected, hit Control D again, and now this word is selected, and you can type test and they all get replaced at once. So these like multi-line capabilities can really increase your productivity if you learn them and kind of get used to using them. I highly recommend it. The last thing I want to talk about are some extensions, and some of this is kind of specific to Angular, but just know there are so many extensions in the marketplace for VS Code. Like whatever language that you're using, just search for it. Like if you're using Python, you want to install like Python extensions, and if you're using TypeScript, install TypeScript extensions. So while I'm going to talk about Angular and TypeScript here, it's going to be different for each language. You just got to find those good extensions. So if you're working in Angular and TypeScript, you're going to want the Angular language service. I'm on an old version because the new one has an issue. But yeah, the Angular language service, I'll show you what that does. I've got ESLint and TSLint so that I can see problems in real time in the IDE and not have to like run npm run lint to find out that I've got, you know, some errors. And then the Visual Studio IntelliCode to get some of that like IntelliSense type capabilities in the IDE. So let's start with the language service, the Angular language service. We've got a public property called title, a private property called test. If I go into my HTML and I start typing title, you'll see it knows that's a public property on the page component. So it can just help you autocomplete a lot quicker. It can also help you find errors. If you try to use that private property, it's going to say property test is private and only accessible within the page component class. Without that language service installed, this would not show up as an error. So it just helps you find those problems earlier in the feedback cycle. It also works, of course, if you have like an unknown variable. It'll tell you that property unknown does not exist on type page component. So that can be super helpful. It can do a lot more than that. That's just a quick overview. If you're interested in what the linters do, I think this is a good way of showing you. If you accidentally do like double quotes when you're supposed to do single quotes, I see I have a TSLint error, so I can fix that. And seeing those lint errors again just helps reduce that feedback cycle. The last one was the Visual Studio and IntelliCode. Is it IntelliSense or IntelliCode? IntelliCode. And that one just gives you, you know, better TypeScript capabilities. Some of this is kind of built in, but it's stuff like this. On an array, you hit dot and it tells you those prototype methods like map for each. Of course, it works on strings as well. You can have replace, split, to lowercase, match, things like that. So it just gives you more autocomplete, more capabilities to help you move around quicker in your IDE. So it can be super helpful. So that's it for now. I hope some of these tips were new to you and can help increase your productivity. If they helped you out, let me know in the comments. And also, if you know of any other tips that maybe I should share or start using myself, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and we'll catch you next time.